Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business. This is your co-host Amy Zander with DD Media, and I'm here with the lovely Lisa Fisher. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I always have to say it's recording day. I love this day where we get to meet people in our community and just talk about them.
Yeah, for sure. So, what have you been doing around town?
Oh my goodness. So Sunday, I went to a big worship festival on the Capitol lawn and it was really
Oh,
awesome. So yeah, there was a gentleman. He's traveling to all the capitals in the United States. He's going to end up in Washington, D.C. And it was just a great time of people coming together and praising and worshiping at the Capitol. It was awesome.
oh,
How about you?
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know that this is a little bit. It was a little while ago for when this episode comes out, but I went to the Grand Ledge Island Art Festival this year,
Oh,
which
yeah.
they moved it from the island to the Ledges Park, which was so awesome because that art festival has exploded. There are so many vendors, and it was really nice. I rode my bike down there, and that was fun. Bought art, of course, because that's what I do. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm glad they moved the venue. I know they were worried about it, but I think that was a great move. So yeah,
Fabulous.
yeah.
Fabulous.
What about you, Priscilla? Have you done anything fun lately?
So fun for me lately has just been honestly being at the University Club pool and chilling, but also taking my nieces and nephews. They're all kind of in the season where they're like learning how to swim. Zara's 6, and she has found this new love for swimming after watching the Olympics. And like now she's
Mm.
like, I want to do that. And it's been really cool, like to just go to the pool and like watch her learn how to swim and try new things. She was so scared to do the diving board, and we talked her through it. And the first time she did it, she felt so brave and she was like, I want to do it again. And so we've been spending a lot of time at the pool. I don't get a lot of time there. So when I do get a break, I like to just go to the pool and be in the sun.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a good summer for that.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh,
Excellent.
that's awesome. Cool. Well, Lisa, why don't you introduce who we just heard from?
I get to read this amazing bio. Priscilla is a motivational, inspiring, and uplifting speaker. She is a non judgmental, spunky powerhouse who cares about all of God's people. She is a sought out advocate whose voice and life live up to the definition of her name, a mover and a shaker. Her philosophy is that hurt people, but healed people heal people. Priscilla's work focuses on rehabilitation and restoration for both victims and perpetrators of incest. Her work is needed because it helps end the destructive cycle that tears apart families and eats at the fiber of our society. She speaks often with the state legislators and senators to help change laws that will accompany her vision to change and end the culture of abuse. So, welcome, Priscilla. So good to have you here today. I know it's been a journey to get you here, but we are so glad you're here. How
Yes.
are you doing?
I am doing really good. And honestly, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be able to have this conversation and just to meet people who really are just in the business of wanting to help people, expand business, all of those great things. And so I'm super grateful to be here. Doing pretty good. It's a very busy season, but I have no complaints.
Very good, very good. How did you get involved with crime survivors?
Yeah, so I got involved with crime survivors because I'm a survivor myself. I was sexually abused by my father, who was also a pastor when I was 12 years old. And not because I would have chosen this story or this testimony, but this was a family cycle of dysfunction, just repeated cycles. When I became an adult, I realized that I wanted to know more about how we got here. My dad was a pastor, he was a charismatic man, he served in the military. Like how did we get here? And I started to do a lot of research on just like my family and our history and what our last name, where it came from, all of those things. And I found out that my grandfather had raped 13 of his 14 kids. And so my dad repeated the cycle. And although there's nothing that could ever excuse what he did, it just gave me an understanding of like how we got here. And in order to change, like to make end cycles of crime or end cycles of trauma or dysfunction, you have to get to that root issue of like, well, how did we get here? And that can be really, really hard. But living with dysfunction and living with trauma is also hard. So I often tell people you have to choose your hard and what is going to give you like the best outcome and for the best life. And I just knew for me, like I grew up in a very strong faith base that forgiveness was super important. I believe that forgiveness is mandatory for those who call themselves a Christian, but reconciliation is optional. And I had to make a decision on like, yes, I'm going to forgive my dad and my mom because she played a role too. But like, am I going to reconcile with them? Because that was completely up to
Mm.
me. And I made the decision that I wanted to know what was on the other side of complete 100 percent forgiveness. Like, what does this look like? What does it feel like? What is it supposed to be like? And so I made the decision to forgive my dad, forgive my mom, and I started um, just really sharing my story of like how God totally turned not only our story around, but like my dad's not the same man he was when I was 12 years old. My mom isn't the same mom she was. I feel like we've all grown, we've all changed, and we've done the hard work to heal each individually, but also together. And then I shared my story on social media about how the power of the cross, the power of forgiveness, the power of healing, really. Like, even if you weren't from any faith base at all, like the decision to heal is so important. And so I shared that on social media and did not expect for like thousands of people to respond. And the next thing you know, I started getting into advocacy work. I've done court advocacy, I've done medical advocacy, and I just honestly shared my testimony. And then it sort of just created a platform that I didn't really ask for, but like I believe God positioned me there. And now I get to help victims across the country heal through action. And that's kind of how I got here.
I love that. I love that. And, I know you travel a lot and you do go all over, but how do you help people heal through action? When you're speaking to them, what do you share? What do you tell them?
Yeah, so there's a few different things that our organization as a whole does. We're not a direct service, but what we do is we really elevate their voices. We elevate an opportunity for them to have like a time of storytelling. For you to be able to share your story, to be heard, is one of the most powerful things that a survivor and a victim can do. But it's also one of the most powerful thing to be able to sit and listen. A lot of times, I used to tell people, this is not a as glamorous of a job that a lot of people think. They see the rewards, they see the accolades, they see the aftermath, but they don't really see what kind of is behind the scenes. And trauma is dysfunctional, it's hard, it's ugly, it's messy. And what we get to do is most of my job is really showing up. You cannot underestimate the power of your presence and the power of just listening. And that's just one aspect. So we give people an opportunity to really share their stories. And then what we do is we equip victims and survivors to tell their own stories. We do a lot of media training, legislative training. We have over 200,000 members across the country. And what we do is we just don't want legislators creating laws without including the voices of those that it's actually impacting. And so what we do is we either change laws or create new laws on behalf of crime victims. And what's beautiful is that everyone that's hired in the survivor division is actually a survivor. There's another division called time done, and those individuals have actually done time for committing a crime. We don't work against each other. We work to break the barriers that each division faces. And in order to break those cycles of crime, we work at really discussing prevention, trauma recovery centers, rehabilitation, restoration for all. So if you're incarcerated, we believe that that's a time and an opportunity where people should be rehabilitated because they're going to be coming back to our communities. For example, right now we are working on a bill called productivity credits. This is an incentive program for those who are incarcerated that will be coming back to our community, not if they come out, but when they come out. They could potentially get 20% off their sentence. So if you got a 10-year sentence, you could get 2 years off, off your sentence. But nothing is a guaranteed. You still have to, you can take every program and you still would have to go before the parole board. and you have to allow them to do their job. And they can say, you did all the programs you could do, but we want you to finish your 2 years. Or you did really, really well. We're going to let you out the 2 years. These are evidence-based programs that proves that when they go and they rehabilitate themselves and they utilize their time wisely and with curriculum that's going to help educate them and equip them for coming back to society, you're actually going to see them less likely to commit another crime. And that's how you stop cycles of crime. So that's just one aspect. We are a big part of, obviously our organization. Where our voices and our organization head the Safer Michigan Act. Probably the most rewarding law that I've been a part of is the um, uh, oh my gosh, what is it called? The name is just like at the tip of my head. Um, it's the Safer Michigan Act and victim crimes compensation. So the compensation for victims to be able to receive. Michigan was the worst in the country for victim compensation across the country. And the reason is because victims and survivors had 48 hours to report their crime. The problem with that in our state of Michigan is that if you're a gun violence survivor, you're in the hospital recovering, you already missed your window of opportunity to file. If you're a rape victim like myself, it took me years to come forward. I would have missed my window of opportunity had I known it even existed. So that's the other aspect is most people don't even know that victims compensation exists. And so we changed that law. We changed the 48-hour window to 1 year. A victim and survivor should have the time that they need to heal so that they can file a police report within 1 year. They can file victim compensation within 5 years. So we moved the 48-hour to 1 year for filing a police report. And then we moved the 1 year to 5 years to file for victim compensation. And then we extended to our what a survivor could receive financially. It was $5,000. We changed that because if you were to lose your life as a result of crime, $5,000 would not cover your funeral cost, which means there's still a barrier. And you're going to see a lot of families go to Facebook, GoFundMe pages, because now if they didn't have a plan in place, they're still trying to figure out how do I come up with $5,000 as a result of crime, and they're trying to heal. We just believe survivors shouldn't have to figure those things out. So they increase that $5,000 to $10,000 if you were to lose your life as a result of crime. And so it's powerful, incredible work. And so healing through action means that they actually get to speak for themselves. And let me tell you, victims and survivors are fully capable and they want to. And 8 out of 10 victims and survivors really believe in rehabilitation and they want to see more prevention and rehabilitation take place within our states.
So with that program and the money that survivors get, where does the money come from?
So it's federal dollars. This is money that comes to our state. It won't run out. This is money that's always being refueled. As a matter of fact, because we were the worst in the country, we had millions of dollars, like over 40 million just sitting there that was actually designated to go to victims and survivors. And what's so cool is when we changed that law for victim compensation, there were so many victims that would come to me and they'd say, Priscilla, like I got denied and I don't know why. Like, it was just crazy the barriers they'd have to face. First of all, you couldn't even file for victim compensation online. You'd have to go to the courthouse, go in person. For DV survivors, that is very difficult because they barely leave. And you would have to fill out this form. And a lot of the survivors would say, this feels like a college application. It's very hard. It's confusing. The questions are tricky. And if you didn't, dot your I's and cross your T's, you would get denied. And so the beautiful thing about us when we decided to really change this is that, now there's an opportunity for people to file online. They can do it from their phone. And then the other piece was that really just marketing that it even exists because people don't know that it exists. I can tell you that had my mom known that there was victim compensation when your father's the breadwinner, I really believe had we known that there was resources out there, I think that our life, the outcome of our situation would have been different. I believe that a lot of people stay because they don't know what's out there and what's available to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. So I was going to ask how you got the word out. How do you guys spread the word and get the word out of these types of programs, type of opportunities
Yeah.
for victims and the perpetrators?
So I would say, the media, social media is like our best friend nowadays, but also like word of mouth. I think that, this is why it's so key that you're speaking with your legislators, that they're putting it out there, that our governor's putting the information out there, that any our court like off like our courthouses, our ERs, when kids, women, men are going to get their rape
Mhm.
kits done by say nurses, that the information is there. We're making sure that all of our nonprofits who serve victims and survivors are aware of it. Really, just everything that you could think of as far as marketing, it's being done because we want to make sure that people know. And the thing is, there are still a lot of people that don't know. That's why just things like this podcast, bringing awareness when you're able to speak with, you know, even just like your local chambers, your
Mhm.
local nonprofits, like going and doing meet and greets, networking. Those are all great opportunities to share what actually exists in the state of Michigan or and across the country. This is something that I know we have worked on in other states as well. We've been very successful. Our organization has actually gotten $3 billion secured across the country that has been designated to victims and survivors. Michigan is just one state, and we've also have seen 100 bills passed across the country that have made it into law. And honestly, it's incredible work. And again, this is from victims and survivors. We have policy retreats where we bring victims and survivors together and we start hearing and talking about our experiences. What were the barriers that we face? What would we like to see take place on the law side of things? If there's a barrier, what is we can recognize what the problem is, and then when you recognize the problem, then you can start coming up with solutions. So we'll meet with our lobby team, our lawyers, people who are, the writers who kind of start shaping the bills. It all comes from victims and survivors coming together and sharing their stories and their experiences. And it's one of the most incredible things to go from a room of victims and survivors and hearing their experiences and what they wish they could see or have access to, or what they could see change or develop, and then for it to get into writing, then it becoming a bill, and then they get to testify on it. They get to get trained with media. Our media training is outstanding. We want them to speak for themselves. We don't want them to just share their story and then we have other colleagues come in and speak for them. No, they get so equipped that they share their story, they share what they want to see take place, and then they get to go all the way through the process. And even though it can be a long process, depending on what bill we're promoting, because sometimes you have everyone that wants to support it and then you have some pushback. We are a nonpartisan organization, but there's always going to be someone that disagrees,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
that's okay. The beautiful thing about our organization is that I believe that in a season where we can't get Democrats and Republicans to agree, we are a leading organization that actually can bring them together, and we can agree on what's important. And it's really, really cool when you get to kind of see that kind of come full circle, and then those same victims and survivors get to be at that bill signing with the governor, and they get to see it get implemented. And I'm telling you, it was life changing. My first bill, under the Victims Compensation, which was under the Safer Michigan Act, was incredible because I got to hear from the beginning, testify, be at the bill signing, and then get the calls from victims saying, I got denied 2 years in a row, but guess what? I just got approved for victim compensation. And now they can
Mhm.
go get counseling. Now their medical bills are paid for. And these barriers and overwhelming trauma that gets added on to their already trauma is removed because now they don't have to think about X, Y, and Z, or they don't have to go to 5 different places to get what they need. They can go to a trauma recovery center where it's a one-stop shop, which is what we're really focusing on now. I am happy to share that we are opening our first trauma recovery center with Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. We secured $4 million with the governor, who really supported the trauma recovery centers. This is a one-stop shop where a survivor and a victim can just go, and it's hospital based. They can get everything that they need for their healing in one place instead of having to go to a bunch of different places. And it's trauma recovery. which is important because when you think about if you're physically hurt, right? If you get shot, you were to get abused sexually, you have a hospital to go to. But when you're struggling mentally, where do you go?
Mm.
That's why trauma recovery centers are so important. So we're getting ready to do the ribbon cutting here in a few weeks in Detroit, and then shortly after we'll do a quick turnaround, and we're going to start opening up our planning and with our second trauma recovery center in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And if I have it my way, I would love to be able to bring one to Lansing. So we have to secure that funding, we have to elevate our voice, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, when somebody wants to share their story, how do they reach out? How do they get a hold of you? How do they um,
Yeah.
share?
I would say the best way to get involved is to go online at CSSJ.org, pick whatever state you're in or the nearest state, and then there's chapters within that state. And so in Michigan, we have Lansing, we have Detroit, we have Pontiac, and we have Grand Rapids. We are involved in Kalamazoo and Jackson, but they're not full on chapters. I would say that's more of like leadership is there. But I would say getting involved in a chapter. We have monthly chapter events for members, and then majority are in person. Every once in a while, you might have a Zoom, event,
Mhm.
something like that, where they might have like a table talk and they have like a topic, but they have those in-person events, and that's where you can kind of start kind of getting involved, and you can decide like, do you want to get involved in storytelling? Do you want to get involved with testifying? Do you want to get involved in media? Some of our members don't want to do anything
Right.
regarding being on camera, but they're participating with a sign-on letter to support a bill. They might have we do phone banking where we do like calls and to our members, to our community, to see if where they're at in supporting a specific bill. We teach them how to call their own legislators and to speak with their legislators. We set up meetings for our members to meet with legislators. So there's different ways you can, but I would say start with finding the nearest chapter near you. And then I can say that we exist in, let's see, Ohio, Illinois, Florida, Texas, California, Arizona, New York. I think that's everyone, and we're
Okay.
growing. I can tell you,
Yeah.
we are expanding so much that it's constantly growing and moving. And I would say if there's not something near you, I would say contact us anyway. You never know if you might be the person
Right.
that starts that chapter in that area, or maybe you're a leader that's going to be, a voice that's going to help elevate survivor voices, or you never know which, when we make our way to your state. So never hesitate to reach out to us. We also have our mental health healing spaces that are my colleague Trisha Forbes leads, and it's incredible. They meet every Wednesday. They have topics, and it always hones in on healing and opportunities for free counseling. There's a whole program and opportunity for them to be able to receive that counseling that they need for free. Um, but like I said, we're not a direct service. We really handle more legislative work. But
Right.
honestly, it's an incredible organization doing powerful changes.
So you talk about getting the Democrats and Republicans to come together. That's a
Yeah.
challenge in itself. But what's been one of the biggest challenges that you've experienced being a part of this organization?
The biggest challenge, I think there's always a challenge when it comes to our healing, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think when you make the decision to heal, there's always like this voice that's like, you should go for your healing. And then there's this other voice for victims and survivors where it's like, no, just stay here, or you'll self-sabotage. I think the hardest thing is watching people go through the cycle of healing where it's like, they want to heal, but it's hard work. And so you have to kind of watch people go through their seasons and journeys of healing. I would say it's challenging, but it's also rewarding to be able to see, you come alongside of these victims and survivors to say you're not alone, and to be able to see someone struggle is tough. But
Mhm.
also, when you can see them take that next step, it's the most powerful thing, because then they take the next step, and the next thing you know, like they're completely on their journey of complete healing. But I would also say the challenge when it comes to sometimes our legislators, sometimes it's them not really reading our bill and not taking us
Mhm.
seriously. Sometimes we'll get before legislators and we're testifying. You'll have a legislator stand up and leave while a victim or survivor is testifying. You'll have
Mm.
a legislator that is not up to date on the bill, and they'll say things and they'll ask things that they would know the answers if they just read the bill. And it's challenging when you're like, "Hey, wait a minute. You work for us. You should be helping us make these positive changes in our communities to make them safer, to make them better. We're not just about justice, we're about safety. That's why it's crime survivors for safety and justice. We don't want to just slap people on the wrist. We want justice, but we want safety. And safety means prevention. Safety means healing for everyone involved. And I love it because it goes so deeply to what I've always believed in. And you read it earlier, is that hurt people, but healed people heal people. And I remember years ago, I heard someone say hurt people. And it resonated with me and it made a lot of sense. But I was like, but I don't want to hone in and focus on the hurt and keep and that's our focus. Well, hurt people. Well, yeah, but healed people heal people. And if we can get more people healed, we're going to see a whole community heal. And when we can get a whole community heal, we're going to make incredible movements and changes. And then that's where you're going to bring safety and justice to your communities. And people might think, well, victims and survivors, they don't really affect me. The legislative work doesn't really affect me. But guess what? If you are a business owner, the people you are hiring, I guarantee you, you have a survivor of something. You have a victim who's
Mhm.
maybe they've never shared their story, and you don't know exactly their life, but these are people that you're hiring. Don't you want to hire people who are healed, who are healthy, who can contribute? And you can always tell, like, when someone comes in and they're broken and they're
Mhm.
living out in their dysfunction. And to me, it's like, why not see people healed? I don't care if you agree spiritually. You don't have to have the same belief as me at all. If you put all spirituality aside, you still have to make the decision. Do you want to heal? Do you want to stay stuck? What do you want your business to look like? What kind of employees do you want to hire? What do you want them to represent? Are you an example of, I love hearing when employers hire people and they see that people that they hire are struggling, but they call them up. They don't call them out. They call them up and say, there's more for you. There's the cycle that I'm seeing of you calling in all the time. Hey, like, what if you're that employee that's like, what can we do to help you stay consistent? What's causing you to be late? Is there something deeper rooted in you that's causing this? Because I think we all have a responsibility to call people up and to be a part of other people's healing. Our life is not about ourselves. And so I just think that this kind of work goes so far beyond even just legislation. I just think that we all have a role in this thing called healing.
I love it. And I know we could talk about this for hours just listening to you talk and share. It's because I know so many people that are impacted, right? And like you said, some of them just shut down and stay where they're at, and others seek healing, but it's a long journey and it's quite a process.
Yeah,
Before we run out of time, though, you have another entity that you support here in the Lansing area. Do you want to share a little bit about Remarkable?
I do. I love Remarkable. So I lead a nonprofit. It started off as a young adult ministry within the church and became its own nonprofit because 18 to 35 was that's such a crucial age group where individuals are finding who they are. They're trying to figure out what do they really want to do with their life. They're changing major after changing majors, and they're just trying to figure it out. And I just know that for me, because of the dysfunction I grew up in, I was so thankful for mentors and people who saw in me more than what I could possibly even see in myself at the time. And I decided that I wanted to make sure that I offered that to our community. And um, it's more of a mentoring discipleship group where we really help people from all walks of life actually reach their full potential. and we want to help them with mentoring and discipling, because this is starting to shape who they are. We want to help them figure out, well, what is it that you want to do with your life? Are you stuck in an area? We hone in on all kinds of topics, from our finances. You'd be surprised how many young people don't take their finances seriously. They're not creating budgets. They're not creating life insurance and thinking about their future. We make sure everyone is set up for that. We make sure that they um that we're talking identity, we're talking about confidence. How do you deal with your emotions when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when life hits? How are you handling yourself? What are you doing with your emotions? Do you need counseling? Do you need an extra help to hone in on that healing? Everything we do is attached to healing, but really it's just to help people reach their full potential and really utilize their gifts. And some people are like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
MSU athletes that come and they don't want to find their identity in the sport, because when they find their identity in the sport, it ends and they don't know who they are. So it's really cool. We have people from all walks of life that come and we meet. We're consistent. One thing about young people, they have to have consistency. So we meet every Tuesday from 6:15 to 8:15. So we have a remarkable night tonight. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super excited. What a lot of wonderful information. And, I know when you were talking about the legislation, a lot of stuff all over the place, but you're here in Lansing. Remarkable is here in Lansing.
Yeah.
There's always a way to reach out and find that healing. Is there any last thing that you would like to share with the listeners?
Um, I'm a worship and events director at Rivers of Life Church. I love my church. I'm so thankful for community. I would say if you don't want to be associated with faith, that's okay. I would just encourage you to find a community and do not do life alone. Isolation sucks. We get our butts kicked when we get into isolation, and I feel like it's a tactic of, isolation is just one of those things where it keeps us from reaching our full potential and it keeps us stuck. And I would say, whoever you are, wherever you are, don't stay stuck in whatever cycle you might be in life, whatever your struggle is. There is a community out there for you. I would say research, if you can't figure it out, contact me. I'll help you, because I want people to win on this side of earth, and I want people to be successful. But more than anything, I want people to heal.
Yeah. Healed people, heal people.
That's right.
Thank you so
Amy,
much.
anything?
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just going to remind our listeners that we will have the links to all the things that we talked about today in the show notes for this episode. So that will include the Crime Survivors Speak, the Remarkable, all that stuff. So if any of the things that we talked about today piqued your interest or you want to know more, you can go to the show notes and find all the links and how to get a hold of Priscilla for more information.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Can I just say
Thank
one last thing? I forgot
Of
to tell you.
course. Yes.
We are taking September 23rd and 24th. We are actually taking 2,500 victims and survivors to DC, and it's going to be the most historical march you will ever see and hear from victims and survivors. And we are going to be elevating our voices, and we're going to share all of the bills we're going to be focusing on for the 2025 moving forward. And so this is going to be a historic event for survivors from all across the country, from all walks of life, coming to DC to meet with our legislators. This is going to be super powerful. And if anyone is interested in joining us, they can go to the CSSJ website as well. And I'd say come join us. If you're a survivor, if you're a victim, or if you just support communities and wanting our communities to be safer, come join us.
Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. And we will help and support your mission by spreading the word with this podcast. So thank you
so much, Amy and Lisa.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. Please remember that we release new episodes every Wednesday. You can find us at zdmedia.com, the Adventures in Business podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, and also on YouTube. So please follow us for more episodes just like this. And as always, go out and make it an adventure.
This is a Zedia Media production.